Okay, so this is Russ Miller. We're at the Frankfurt Musik Messe, and we're taking a look at the new Artist series of snares from Mapex Drums. There's 3 new models, one of which I was involved in designing, and the other two other Mapex artists, Matt Halpern and Chris Adler, were involved in designing. So first let me tell you about Matt's drum. It's called the Wraith, and the drum is comprised of 1.2 millimeters of brass, so it's an actual brass shell, but it has a black satin finish on it, so it doesn't look brass on the outside, but it is a brass shell with a black satin finish. It has sonic saver hoops, which are the curved-in hoops. It adds power and drive to the drum. And it's a 14 by 6 size drum. Has 45-degree edges top and bottom, and a 2.3 millimeter snare bed. A little deeper snare bed creates a nice ghost note tone. One of the things that Matt did with the drum is he has 9 vent holes in the drum, and when you add that many vent holes, you release that much air, you dry the drum out considerably for a metal drum. So that pingy or that ring sound, that ping kind of sound that you get out of metal drums don't exist in the Wraith drum because of all the venting holes that were put into the shell. So let me give you an example of how that would sound. So that's the Matt Halpern Wraith snare drum, cylindrical Black Panther throw-offs on both sides of the drum, and he's got his Evans heads on there that he uses. Now, the Chris Adler drum is called the Warbird, and that's a very unique size drum. It's a hybrid shell of walnut and maple, and it's 12 by 5.5 size, so it's a very unique size. Now, when you get that small a diameter drum, you really add a lot of projection into the drum. A smaller diameter shell is going to project farther, so this thing really pops and projects. But one of the things I like about the drum is that it's got the sonic clear bearing edge on it, and with the sonic clear bearing edge, you actually get way more snare sound and snare tone than you would out of a regular small snare drum. So it is a hybrid shell of walnut maple, and you can see it's a stained walnut finish. And what Chris did, which is really cool, is he did this this piece of artwork on the drum that's burnt in, sort of engraved into the shell itself. So it's a great, beautiful looking instrument. Sonic saver hoops, the same edges as Matt's, 45 degrees, and a 2.3 snare bed. So this is what the Warbird snare would sound like. And finally, we have the Versatis snare drum that I helped Mapex design. Versatis is a form of the word versatile in Latin, and that's exactly what I needed, which was a versatile snare drum. And for me, that meant that it had a very wide tuning range and that it had a very unique sound of being small when I needed it to be small and big when I needed it to be big. So to do that, I used a mahogany maple hybrid shell. The mahogany allows me to tune the drum much, much lower, especially for this depth drum. I can tune it really low and get a lot of bottom end. I really wanted the feel of the drum to have that great sort of puffy, compressed feel. So what I did to do that is I started off with that shell and a 2-hole venting system, and I just shaved the shell down until I got the feel that I wanted, and we end up at 4 5/8 for the depth. To do that, I staggered the lugs like side by side rather than back to back. That extends the high-end tuning range by allowing the tension rods to move farther. And the real trick about developing the small and big sound was putting a reinforcement ring on the top of the drum only. So the top of the drum is 11 plies, but the bottom of the snare is only 7 plies. So you end up with a very small and articulate sound here spreading to a bigger sound on the outside because you're activating 11 plies of wood. To help with the sensitivity, it has a 3.0 millimeter snare bed, so it's a deep snare bed. And also there's a 35-degree sonic clear edge on the bottom, which is sharper, and a 45 on this side to help with projection and attack, but the 35 gives you the sensitivity and the snare response. So this is what the Versatis snare drum sounds like. So that's the Artist series of snare drums that's being released by Mapex Drums here at Frankfurt Musik Messe. The Wraith, the Warbird, and the Versatis. Saturn V is also being released with the new Sonic Clear Edge and the Sonic Clear Tom mount. So I encourage everybody to check those out as soon as possible. The great and new innovations from Mapex Drums.